I stood there, frozen, as the video played on my phone. My wife, Emily, laughing, her hands all over him, their lips locked in a way that used to be just ours. It was in our bedroom. Our goddamn bed. My hand trembled as I pressed pause, the laughter still echoing in my ears like a twisted soundtrack to my nightmare. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. A knot formed in my stomach, threatening to pull me under. How the hell did I end up here? I thought we were happy. I thought our life was solid, unshakable. We were that couple everyone envied. Beautiful house, 2 amazing kids, careers that were finally taking off. And here I was, standing in my office, watching my wife grind against some asshole while our wedding picture hung right above them. I slammed my fist against the desk, sending papers flying, but I didn't care. I wanted to break everything. My hands itched to destroy. My mind spun with questions I didn't even know how to ask. How long had this been going on? How many nights had I kissed her goodbye while she snuck off to meet him? I scrolled through the messages again, while rising in my throat as I saw how she talked to him. Sweet, loving, passionate. The way she used to talk to me. The way she hasn't in months. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of the haze. It was Emily, texting me about dinner plans like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't out there screwing another man. I wanted to scream, wanted to rip my phone in half. Instead, I typed out a reply. Sure, I'll pick up dinner. Love you. What a goddamn joke. Love you. I couldn't even say it to her face anymore. I couldn't let her know I'd found out. Not yet. I needed time to think, to figure out what I was going to do. My mind raced with possibilities. Confront her? Beat the crap out of that guy? Call her parents? Hell, call a lawyer? I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't ending quietly. Emily had no idea who she was messing with. She thought I'd be weak, that I'd just sit back and let her trash everything we built. But no, she was about to find out just how far a broken man could go. I had to be smart. I needed evidence. Concrete, undeniable proof. I wasn't about to let her twist this on me when I finally confronted her. She would pay for this. They both would. But first, I needed to get my emotions under control. I couldn't let her see me broken. Not when she was the one who shattered us. I took a deep breath, wiped my face, and glanced in the mirror. My eyes looked hollow, dark circles already forming from the sleepless nights leading up to this. I knew something was off. I could feel it for months. The cold shoulder, the way she smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, the late nights at work. God, how could I be so stupid? I grabbed my keys and stormed out, ignoring the concerned looks from my colleagues. I had to get out of there, clear my head, and plan my next move. As I drove, I couldn't help but replay the video in my mind, the way she looked at him with that hungry gaze I hadn't seen in years. Anger flared up again, burning hot and vicious. This wasn't going to end well. Not for her. Not for him. Not for anyone who thought they could mess with my life and walk away unscathed. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, determination settling in. No more playing the fool. No more being the doting husband. They wanted war. I'd give them war. I pulled up to our house, the place that was supposed to be our sanctuary. Now it felt like a monument to betrayal, a cruel joke carved out of brick and memories. I sat in the driveway for a moment, my grip on the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded like a war drum in my chest, and I had to force myself to breathe evenly. She couldn't know I was onto her. Not yet. Emily's car wasn't in the driveway, and I checked the time. Nearly 7. She'd texted earlier that she was going to be late because of work. Work. I almost laughed at how pathetic that excuse sounded now. All those late-night meetings and sudden business trips. I wanted to feel stupid for not seeing it earlier, but rage was the only emotion I could cling to right now. I stepped inside the house, the familiar scent of lavender from her stupid diffuser hitting me like a punch to the gut. I had to remind myself to keep it together. I couldn't afford to lose my cool. Not yet. The kids were with my mom tonight, thank God. The last thing they needed was to see me like this, unraveling at the seams. I went straight to the bedroom, the same bedroom I'd just seen her defile with that prick. I could still see them, like a ghost image burned into my mind. Her hands on his chest, his lips on her neck. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to smash something. I opened her closet, looking for anything, something that might tell me how long this had been going on. Receipts, notes, anything that could clue me in. My hands dug through her neatly folded clothes, rifling through hangers and drawers, when I found a small velvet box at the back of the top shelf. I pulled it down and opened it, my stomach twisting as I found a bracelet I'd never seen before, thin gold with a tiny heart charm. There was no way I'd missed her wearing this. I picked up her laptop from the nightstand and opened it, but of course, it was locked. I knew her password. At least, I thought I did. I typed in our anniversary date, but it didn't work. Then our daughter's birthday, still nothing. My heart raced as I typed the prick's name from the messages. Bingo. The laptop unlocked, and I felt a sickening lurch in my stomach. She was using his name as her password. I started digging through her emails and social media accounts, screenshots piling up on my phone like evidence in a trial. There were photos of them at hotels, messages about how much she missed him, how she couldn't wait to see him again. Disgust poured through me like poison. Then I hit the jackpot, an entire email thread planning a weekend getaway. Next Saturday, I felt my hands shake as I read the details. She'd taken a day off work without even telling me. Her boss was in on it, said she deserved some time off. I made a mental note to pay him a visit when this was all over. Suddenly, I heard the front door open, and I froze. Emily's heels clicked against the tile floor as she came inside, humming some stupid pop song under her breath. I slammed the laptop shut and stuffed it back on the nightstand, forcing myself to calm down. I plastered on a smile as she walked into the bedroom, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Oh, hey, babe," she chirped, dropping her purse on the bed. "You're home early." "Yeah," I said, doing my best to sound casual. "Got off work a bit sooner than I thought." She leaned in to kiss me, and I nearly recoiled, but I forced myself to play along. Her lips brushed mine, and it felt like I was kissing a stranger. Her phone chimed, and she pulled it out of her bag, quickly turning her back to me as she checked the screen. My blood boiled as I watched her smile at whatever message she'd just gotten. I swallowed the fury, reminding myself that I needed to be smart about this. I couldn't just scream at her and let her play the victim. I had to hit her where it hurt. "How was work?" I asked, my voice steady. "Oh, busy as usual," she replied without turning around. "Just a ton of paperwork and meetings. I'm exhausted." "Must be rough," I said, eyeing her like she was a rattlesnake ready to strike. She didn't even notice the edge in my voice. She just kept typing away on her phone like nothing had changed. I couldn't stand looking at her. I needed to get out of there before I snapped. "I'm gonna hit the gym," I muttered, grabbing my keys. "Clear my head a bit." She barely looked up from her phone, waving a lazy hand. "Okay, babe, don't overdo it." I gritted my teeth, fighting the urge to throw her phone against the wall. Instead, I just walked out, breathing in the cold evening air as I climbed back into my car. I drove aimlessly, trying to make sense of my next move. Confronting her now would be useless. She'd lie through her teeth, make up some excuse, and I wasn't ready to hear her twisted version of the story. But Saturday was the day I was going to end this. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to destroy every last piece of her perfect little fantasy. She thought she could just walk all over me, but she had no idea who she was messing with. I started making calls, first to my best friend, Kyle. I needed backup on this one, and Kyle had my back since day one. Then I called my lawyer, setting up an appointment to get the ball rolling. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to ruin her, rip apart everything she thought was secure. By the time I got home, my mind was made up. I wasn't going to be the sad, pathetic husband who got cheated on and moped around. I was going to be the one to flip the tables, make her feel the burn of betrayal and humiliation. As I climbed into bed next to her, I couldn't help but glance over at her sleeping face. Peaceful, like she didn't have a care in the world. I almost felt pity, almost. Because when Saturday came, she was going to know exactly how it felt to be betrayed. The next morning, I woke up with a newfound clarity. I wasn't going to let Emily drag me down into the pit of despair she created. I was going to take control. I had a plan forming in my mind, and it was about to unfold like a goddamn masterpiece. I got up before her, careful not to make a sound, and headed to the kitchen to make coffee. My mind was already spinning through the possibilities. I needed to make sure every detail was perfect. The first step was to make her believe nothing was wrong. That way, she wouldn't suspect anything when it all came crashing down on her. As I stood there, staring at the coffee machine, I thought about all the ways I could expose her. A public scene at the restaurant? Too tacky. Smashing her phone to pieces and demanding answers? Too reckless. No, I needed to be smart, cold, and calculating. I wanted her to feel the same kind of betrayal that was eating me alive from the inside out. Then it hit me. I needed to humiliate her the way she humiliated me. Not just to her, but to everyone who thought we were the perfect couple. Her family, her friends, her coworkers. Hell, even that asshole she was screwing around with. I wanted every single person in her life to know exactly who she was and what she'd done. I called Kyle later that morning, and as always, he picked up on the first ring. "Yo, what's up, man?" he said, his voice groggy from sleep. "Kyle, I need your help," I said, and immediately his tone changed. He knew I wasn't the type to ask for favors unless it was serious. "What's going on? You sound off." I hesitated, trying to find the right words. "Emily's been cheating on me." Silence. Then he exhaled sharply. "What? Are you serious? I've got proof. Videos. Messages. She's screwing some prick from her office. I'm done being played for a fool. I need your help to take them both down." Kyle didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, bro. Just say the word." I felt a small sense of relief. At least I wasn't going through this alone. "I need you to help me gather intel on this guy. His name's Brandon, and he works with her. I want to know everything about him. His job, his schedule, his family. Everything. Consider it done." "I'll start digging right away," Kyle promised. After hanging up, I started on the second phase of my plan, making sure Emily stayed oblivious. I couldn't let her sense anything was off. I had to play the loving husband a little longer. It made me sick just thinking about it, but it was necessary. When she finally woke up, I greeted her with a smile and a cup of coffee, just like I did every weekend. She looked a bit surprised, probably because I hadn't been this attentive in weeks. "Oh, thank you," she said, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. I fought the urge to flinch. "Anything for you," I replied, forcing warmth into my voice. "What's on your agenda today?" She shrugged, sipping her coffee. "Just some errands. Gonna meet up with Sarah later. You know how it is, girls' day out." "Yeah, right. Girls' day out my ass." I knew damn well she'd be sneaking off to meet Brandon. I kept my expression neutral, nodding like I believed every word. "That sounds nice. Maybe I'll hit the gym again today," I said casually. She smiled sweetly. "Good idea. You've been working so hard lately. You deserve some time to relax." I almost laughed at the hypocrisy, but I kept my face neutral. "Yeah, maybe I'll treat myself. You have fun with Sarah." As soon as she left the house, I grabbed my phone and checked the tracker I'd secretly installed on her car. Sure enough, she wasn't headed towards Sarah's place at all. She was going in the opposite direction, right into the city. I clenched my jaw and fought back the rage. I needed to save it for Saturday. While she was gone, Kyle texted me a few updates. Brandon was a mid-level manager at her company. Married, 2 kids. That made me feel even sicker. The bastard wasn't just screwing my wife. He was also betraying his own family. I wondered if his wife knew. If she had the same gut feeling that something was off, but couldn't quite put her finger on it. I was tempted to reach out to her right away, but I held back. I needed to keep all the pieces in place. Kyle called me an hour later. I got his home address and his wife's contact info. "Want me to do anything with it?" "Not yet," I replied. "We're going to drop this bomb all at once. No warning shots. I'm going to confront them both on Saturday at that little getaway she's planned. I want his wife there too. We're going to blow up their perfect little world in one go." Kyle chuckled darkly. "Damn, you're ruthless. But I get it. I'd do the same if someone did that to me." "You sure about this?" "More sure than I've ever been," I replied. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about making sure they never forget the consequences of their actions." When Emily finally came home, she seemed happier than usual, like seeing Brandon had filled whatever void I wasn't enough to cover. It made my blood boil, but I forced myself to smile. I let her prattle on about her day with Sarah, nodding like I gave a damn. All I could think about was how satisfying it was going to be when I shattered her world and left her with nothing. I made sure to spend time with the kids that night, focusing on them instead of letting my mind spiral into darkness. They didn't deserve this mess. They didn't need to see their dad torn apart by betrayal. I'd protect them from that at all costs. As I tucked them in, I made a silent promise to myself. I wasn't just going to confront Emily. I was going to make sure everyone knew who she really was. The lying, cheating snake hiding behind that sweet smile. And when Saturday came, she wouldn't even see it coming. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. The days leading up to it were a blur of planning, gathering evidence, and keeping my composure around Emily. I was living in a damn soap opera, pretending to be the clueless husband while I meticulously planned her downfall. Kyle and I spent most evenings strategizing. We rented a small conference room in a hotel near the cabin Emily and Brandon had booked. That way, we'd have enough space to set up the presentation I had in mind. I wanted witnesses, people from her work, close friends, and even her parents. They all needed to see the truth. Kyle was in charge of sending anonymous invitations to them, hinting that there was something they desperately needed to see regarding Emily and Brandon. It wasn't hard to lure them in. People love drama, especially when it's not theirs. I also managed to get Brandon's wife, Jessica, involved. Kyle reached out to her under the guise of a concerned friend and convinced her to attend. When she found out about the affair, she didn't even cry, just got eerily calm and agreed to show up. I guess she was too shocked to process it. Either way, it didn't matter to me. She had the right to know, just like I did. The morning of the confrontation, I woke up early, feeling more alive than I had in weeks. Emily was already up, packing her bag for her girls' weekend. I watched her move around the room, humming softly, completely unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. "Need help with anything?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She smiled at me. "No, it's just a quick trip. I'll be back tomorrow evening." I fought back the bitter laugh clawing at my throat. "Sounds fun. Drive safe, okay?" She came over and kissed me on the cheek, and it took every ounce of self-control not to pull away. When she finally left, I let out a long, shuddering breath and texted Kyle. "She's on her way. Everything ready." His reply came instantly. "Yep, everyone's in place. Let's destroy these bastards." I drove separately to the hotel, my heart pounding like a war drum. When I arrived, Kyle greeted me with a firm clap on the shoulder. "You good?" "As good as I can be," I muttered, forcing a grim smile. "Let's get this over with." The conference room was already packed. Emily's parents sat near the front, looking worried and confused. Some of her friends from work whispered to each other, and Brandon's wife sat stoically in the corner, her jaw clenched. I didn't have time to feel sorry for her. We were both victims of the same betrayal. When everyone settled, I walked to the front of the room, cleared my throat, and tapped the microphone. "Thank you all for coming." I started, keeping my tone calm and steady. "I know you're probably wondering why you're here. I'll get straight to the point. My wife, Emily, has been cheating on me with her co-worker, Brandon. Today, I'm going to show you the truth." There were gasps and murmurs around the room. I didn't let the noise distract me. I needed to get through this without breaking down. I pulled up the video footage on the projector screen, the one that started it all. The room fell silent as they watched Emily and Brandon wrapped around each other, their voices muffled but unmistakably intimate. Emily's parents looked like they'd been slapped, and some of her friends put their hands over their mouths in shock. Brandon's wife just stared, her face pale and expressionless. Next, I displayed the screenshots, the texts, the emails, the weekend plans. I laid it all out like a prosecutor making his closing argument. There was no denying the evidence, no room for doubt. When it was all over, I let the silence hang heavy in the air before speaking again. I loved Emily. I trusted her. And this is how she repaid me, by lying and betraying me with a man who swore to love his own wife and family. I needed you all to see the truth because I refused to be the fool any longer. Just then, the door burst open, and there she was, Emily, dragging her suitcase behind her, looking confused and flustered. Brandon followed right behind her, laughing at something she said. When they saw the room full of people, their smiles vanished, replaced by sheer horror. Emily's eyes locked onto mine, and for a split second, I saw fear there, raw, unfiltered fear. What's going on?" she stammered, her voice cracking. I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped aside and gestured to the projector screen, where their sordid affair was still displayed. Brandon froze, his face going from red to ashen in seconds. Jessica stood up, her voice a deadly whisper. "You lying, cheating bastard," she spat at Brandon. "How could you do this to me and the kids?" Emily turned to me, tears welling up. "Jason, please, I can explain." "Explain what?" I interrupted, my voice cold and hard. "Explain how you've been screwing your coworker behind my back. Or how you used our family password to cover your tracks. No, you're not talking your way out of this." She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "Don't you dare touch me," I warned, my voice laced with venom. "You threw away everything we had for a cheap thrill. You disgust me." Brandon started to speak, but Jessica cut him off. "Don't even try it," she hissed. "We're done. I'm calling a lawyer first thing Monday. You can explain this to your parents when I take the kids and move out. Emily dropped to her knees, sobbing, but I couldn't feel any sympathy. I was empty, completely drained of whatever love I had for her. She looked up at me with pleading eyes, but all I saw was betrayal. It's over, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You're out of my life. You and Brandon can rot together for all I care. I'm done being your fool. Without another word, I turned and walked out, the stunned silence of the room following me like a shadow. Kyle was waiting in the hallway, giving me a nod of approval. You did good, man, he said, patting my back. They won't forget this anytime soon. I took a deep breath, letting the weight of it all settle. It wasn't exactly a victory, but it felt like justice. Emily and Brandon's lives were shattered, just like they had done to mine. As I stepped out into the bright, crisp morning, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was over. The truth was out, and now they would live with the consequences of their actions. And me? I was free, finally free from the lies, the deception, and the fake smiles. It was time to rebuild, to move on from the ashes of what once was. I drove aimlessly for a while, letting the adrenaline slowly drain from my system. My hands still shook on the steering wheel, and every muscle in my body felt tense, like a coiled spring ready to snap. The look on Emily's face when she realized her perfect little world had just come crashing down. It was burned into my memory. I parked near a quiet park and leaned back in my seat, trying to piece together what the hell I was supposed to do next. The satisfaction of exposing her was there, but it was mixed with a deep, hollow emptiness. Years of trust and love wiped away in a single morning. I couldn't quite wrap my head around how everything changed so fast. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at the screen. It was Kyle. Kyle. Dude, you won't believe the fallout. It's insane. I called him back immediately, needing something to focus on besides my own misery. Yeah, I asked, trying to sound casual. He chuckled darkly. Bro, it's blowing up. Someone filmed the whole confrontation and posted it online. It's viral already. Comments are going nuts. Emily and Brandon's names are trending. It's crazy. A pang of guilt hit me, but I quickly crushed it. They deserved every bit of humiliation they were getting. And Brandon's wife? I asked, genuinely curious. She's taking it like a boss. Told everyone right there that she's filing for divorce and kicking his sorry ass out. Guess what? His boss found out too and put him on unpaid leave pending an investigation. I think he's going to get canned. Dude's reputation is totally ruined. Good. Serves him right. I clenched my jaw, realizing that Emily was probably going through the same thing. Not that I cared anymore. What about Emily? I muttered, not entirely sure I wanted to hear the answer. Oh, she's in deep shit. Her parents are livid. Her mom was crying, and her dad just stormed out without saying a word. I think he's done with her. And her boss at work? He called her to say she's suspended until they figure out the mess since it's all over social media. Apparently, some of her coworkers are pissed because it's dragging the company's name through the mud. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered how she laughed with that prick in our bed, how she treated me like a blind, clueless idiot. Whatever happened to her now was on her. She chose to cheat. She chose to throw away our life for some cheap fling. After hanging up with Kyle, I took a few deep breaths and tried to process what was next for me. I needed to talk to a lawyer, get the divorce rolling. I wasn't about to let her take anything from me after what she'd done. The house, the car, even the kids. I was going to fight for full custody. No way was I letting them grow up with someone so morally bankrupt. I took a few hours to clear my head, grabbing a greasy burger from a diner down the road. It tasted like cardboard, but I forced it down anyway. I needed to keep my strength up, couldn't afford to fall apart now. Just as I was finishing up, my phone rang again. This time it was Emily. I stared at the screen, debating whether to pick up or just let it go to voicemail. Screw it. I needed to hear what kind of pathetic excuse she was going to throw at me. I hit accept and put the phone to my ear without saying a word. Jason, please, she sobbed, her voice trembling. Can we just talk? Please. I need to explain. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. Explain what, Emily? How you lied to me for months. How you humiliated me in front of everyone we know. Or how you destroyed our family for some office fling. What's there to explain? Her sobs grew louder, and I could barely make out her words. I'm sorry. I was lonely. You were always so busy with work and the kids, and I felt neglected. Brandon made me feel wanted. I almost laughed out loud at the sheer audacity of her excuse. So your solution to feeling neglected was to screw around with another man? In our bed? Are you kidding me? It wasn't supposed to go this far, she cried. It just happened. I didn't think. No, you didn't think. I snapped, cutting her off. You didn't think about me, about the kids, about everything we built together. You were too busy getting your thrills to care about the consequences. She went silent for a moment before whispering, Please, Jason, I love you. I couldn't help but scoff. Love? You don't know the first damn thing about love. Love means loyalty. It means respect. You didn't just cheat on me. You shattered every ounce of trust one had in you. There's no fixing this. We're done. She started begging then, telling me how she'd do anything to make it right, how she'd go to counseling, quit her job, anything I wanted. But it was too late. I wasn't interested in bargaining with a liar. File your own damn divorce papers, I said coldly, or I'll do it for you. Either way, I'm not staying married to a snake. With that, I hung up and blocked her number. I wasn't going to let her weasel her way back into my life with crocodile tears and empty promises. She made her choices, and now she had to live with them. Later that night, I met up with Kyle again, and we grabbed a few beers. He didn't pry or push me to talk. I think he just knew I needed some normalcy after all the chaos. We sat there in comfortable silence, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sliver of peace creeping back into my mind. As the night wore on, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. I wasn't naive enough to think that the pain would just vanish, but I knew I'd made the right choice. I stood up for myself. I refused to be a doormat. And most importantly, I exposed the truth. Emily and Brandon's lives were in shambles now, and while it didn't completely erase my own hurt, it gave me some sense of justice. They thought they could play me, make me the fool, but they underestimated me. Underestimated how far I'd go to reclaim my dignity. Tomorrow would be a new day, a fresh start. I wasn't going to let this betrayal define me. I was stronger than that. I was better than that. And from now on, I'd build a life that didn't include backstabbers and cheaters. I raised my beer to Kyle, and he mirrored the gesture. To new beginnings, I muttered. To being a badass who doesn't take shit from anyone, he replied with a smirk. And for the first time in a long time, I genuinely smiled. The days that followed were chaotic. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages, friends reaching out to see if I was okay, coworkers who had heard the story through the grapevine, and even some distant relatives who saw the viral video. I ignored most of them. I didn't have the energy to explain myself over and over. They knew the truth now, and that was enough. One call did catch my attention, though. It was from Jessica, Brandon's now ex-wife. I hesitated for a moment before answering, but I figured I owed her at least one conversation after everything that went down. Hey, I answered, keeping my tone neutral. Jason, she said quietly. Her voice was steadier than I expected. I just wanted to thank you for telling me the truth. I never would have known if you hadn't exposed them. I took a deep breath. You didn't deserve that, Jessica. None of us did. I'm just sorry it all came out that way. Honestly, I'm glad it did, she replied, her voice firm. Brandon tried to talk to me afterward, tried to convince me it was just a mistake, that he was confused. Can you believe that? Confused. As if being confused is a reason to wreck a family. I almost laughed at the ridiculousness of it all. Yeah, sounds like Emily's script. They probably practiced that line together. Jessica let out a bitter laugh. Probably. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I filed for divorce yesterday. I'm taking the kids and moving back to my parents' place. Brandon doesn't know yet. I figured I'd let the papers do the talking. Good for you, I said genuinely. You deserve better than that piece of shit. Yeah, she agreed. And so do you. Take care of yourself, Jason. You too, I replied, and with that, the call ended. I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of solidarity with her. Two betrayed spouses navigating the wreckage left behind by selfish partners. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into work, into spending time with the kids, and into hitting the gym harder than ever. I needed to channel my anger somewhere, and lifting weights until my muscles burned seemed to be the only way to quiet the noise in my head. Kyle kept me grounded, dragging me out of the house whenever I started to get too wrapped up in my own thoughts. Emily tried calling me multiple times, leaving pathetic voicemails about how she missed me, how she'd do anything to fix things. I didn't listen to most of them. Once, I let one play out, and her sobbing voice made me sick to my stomach. It wasn't guilt. No, it was pure disgust at how she thought she could just cry her way out of this. Like I'd forget about her betrayal if she just sounded pitiful enough. My lawyer was efficient, and thankfully, the evidence I had stacked up made the divorce process move fast. I filed for full custody of the kids, and since I had proof of Emily's infidelity and her reckless behavior, it looked promising. I wasn't about to let her drag the kids through her mess of lies and deceit. One evening, about a month after the confrontation, I got a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. To my surprise, it was Emily. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed red from crying. I considered not opening the door, but curiosity got the best of me. I pulled it open just enough to look at her. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. She swallowed, clearly nervous. "Jason, please. I just need to talk to you. Just for a minute." I almost slammed the door in her face, but something about her pathetic look made me pause. Maybe I just wanted to hear how low she'd go to try and manipulate me again. "Fine. Talk," I said, not moving from the doorway. She wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. "I lost my job. They fired me after the video went viral. HR said it was bringing too much negative attention to the company. My parents, they're not speaking to me. They think I'm a disgrace." I raised an eyebrow. "And that's my problem, how?" Her face crumpled. "Jason, I'm begging you. Can't we just try to fix this? I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I can't lose you. I can't lose the kids." The audacity of her words made me laugh bitterly. "Emily, you already lost us. The moment you chose to betray me, to humiliate me, to destroy our family. You don't get to just snap your fingers and make it go away." She shook her head desperately. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was lonely, Jason. You were always working, always stressed. I just needed someone to make me feel alive again. My jaw tightened. "So you jumped into bed with Brandon? You didn't think to talk to me, to tell me you were struggling? No. You made a choice. And now you're living with the consequences." She looked down, defeated. "I love you." "That's not love," I snapped. "Love is loyalty. Love is respect. You threw both out the window the second you let him touch you. I'm not taking you back, Emily. Ever." She sobbed harder, and I couldn't muster a shred of sympathy. I knew she expected me to soften, to be the good guy who forgave and moved on. But that man died the moment I saw that video. "Please, Jason. Please," she whispered, reaching for my hand. I yanked it away, stepping back. "Don't. Just leave. I'll see you in court." Her face fell, and finally, she seemed to realize just how final this was. Without another word, she turned and walked away, shoulders hunched like a defeated animal. I watched her go, and when she was out of sight, I closed the door, locking it behind me. I leaned against the wall, staring at the spot where she had stood. A part of me wanted to feel relief, but instead, I just felt empty. She was out of my life for good, and that's what I wanted. So why did it still hurt so damn much? I shook my head, pushing the thoughts away. This wasn't about saving her. It was about saving myself. I wasn't going to be dragged back into her toxic spiral. I'd come too far to let her break me down again. Picking up my phone, I sent a quick text to Kyle. "She stopped by. Tried to get me to take her back. I'm done with her." He replied instantly. "Good. Proud of you. Let her rot." I took a deep breath and put the phone down, realizing that it was time to rebuild, to focus on the kids and on getting my life back together. I wasn't going to let one woman's betrayal define me. This was my life now. One without lies. One without betrayal. And despite the lingering ache in my chest, I knew it was the start of something new, something better. Weeks turned into months, and life slowly started to piece itself back together. The divorce proceedings were moving forward, and with the evidence I had, it looked like full custody was almost a given. Emily barely showed up to the hearings. When she did, she looked like a ghost of herself, hollow and defeated. I couldn't muster any sympathy for her. She made her bed, and now she was lying in it, alone. The kids were adjusting better than I expected. They missed their mom, of course, but I made sure they knew that I was always there for them. I didn't trash talk Emily in front of them. That wasn't my style. I wasn't going to use them as pawns in this mess. My focus was on making sure they felt safe and loved, despite everything falling apart around them. Kyle was a constant presence, always dragging me out of the house when he thought I was spiraling too much into my own thoughts. One Friday evening, He convinced me to hit up a local bar with him. I was hesitant at first, but after some relentless badgering, I gave in. The bar was buzzing with life, filled with people just looking to unwind after a long week. Kyle ordered us both drinks, and we grabbed a spot near the back, away from the loudest crowd. "Man, it's good to see you out," Kyle said, clinking his beer bottle against mine. "You've been holed up in that house like a hermit." I gave him a half-hearted smirk. "Just trying to keep everything together, you know?" He nodded, looking more serious than usual. "You deserve to let loose for once. You did the right thing by kicking Emily out of your life. She screwed you over, and you didn't just sit back and take it. You fought back." I shrugged, not quite sure how to respond. I still wasn't used to feeling like I'd won anything. But just as I was about to reply, a familiar face appeared at the edge of our table. It was Jessica, Brandon's ex-wife. "Hey," she said softly, giving me a tentative smile. "Jessica," I greeted, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" She glanced at Kyle, who nodded and gave me a quick pat on the shoulder. "I'll give you guys some space," he said, heading toward the bar. Jessica pulled up a chair and sat down, looking more put together than the last time I'd seen her. "I didn't know you came here," she said, fiddling with her drink. "Honestly, I don't," I admitted. "Kyle dragged me out. Said I needed to stop being a recluse." She laughed softly. "Yeah, my sister's been saying the same thing to me. I guess I just needed to get out of the house." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment before she spoke up again. "How are you holding up?" she asked, genuinely curious. I took a deep breath. "Some days are better than others. Just trying to move on, you know." She nodded, her expression softening. "Same here. I'm still figuring out what life looks like without Brandon around. The kids ask about him sometimes, but I just tell them he's busy with work. They don't need to know the whole truth yet." "That's rough," I said, giving her a sympathetic glance. "It's not easy explaining adult problems to kids." "No, it's not," she agreed. "But they're resilient. They'll get through it. I'm just trying to rebuild, one piece at a time." I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of solidarity with her. We were both victims of the same betrayal, trying to find a way to move on while protecting our kids from the fallout. There was a moment of silence before she spoke again. "You know," she began hesitantly, "I've been thinking about what happened, about how we both got blindsided like that. And I just wanted to say, thank you for exposing it. As painful as it was, I'm glad I know the truth. I would have kept living in a lie if you hadn't done what you did." I looked down, swirling the beer in my bottle. "You don't have to thank me. I did it for myself as much as anyone. I couldn't just let them keep lying and getting away with it." She reached across the table and touched my hand lightly. "Still, you did the right thing. They got what they deserved." There was something comforting in her touch, something genuine and real, a reminder that I wasn't alone in all of this. I looked up and met her gaze, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of something I couldn't quite name. Before I could overthink it, I squeezed her hand lightly and gave her a small smile. "You're stronger than you think, Jessica. You've handled this better than most would." She smiled back, her eyes a little brighter. "Maybe, or maybe I'm just good at pretending. But it helps, seeing you like this. Seeing that I'm not the only one trying to piece things back together." We ended up talking for hours, about life, about our kids, about what we wanted to do moving forward. For the first time in months, I wasn't consumed by rage or bitterness. Instead, I felt hopeful. Jessica was easy to talk to, grounded and sincere. It was a breath of fresh air after drowning in betrayal and lies for so long. When the night finally wound down, Kyle sauntered over, giving me a sly grin. "You good here, man? I'm gonna head out." I nodded, feeling oddly relaxed. "Yeah, thanks for dragging me out tonight." He gave me a knowing wink. "No problem. See you later." Jessica and I walked out together, lingering on the sidewalk. The night air was cool, and for once, I didn't feel that weight crushing down on me. She hesitated, as if trying to find the right words. "Listen, I know it's still fresh for both of us, but maybe we could do this again sometime. Just talk. Maybe even as friends." I smiled, genuinely this time. "I'd like that. We've both been through enough alone." She gave me one last smile before heading to her car, and I stood there for a moment, taking it all in. I wasn't sure where this would lead, and I wasn't ready to jump into anything new, but it felt good to connect with someone who truly understood the pain and the struggle. As I drove home that night, I couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. The betrayal still stung, but I wasn't drowning anymore. I had people who cared about me, a future to build, and a chance to rediscover who I was outside of being the cheated-on husband. It was time to start living for myself again. Time to take back my happiness and focus on the people who truly mattered, my kids, my friends, and maybe even Jessica. The wounds were still healing, but I was done being a victim. I was ready to move forward. It's strange how life can completely flip on you and still somehow find a way to keep moving forward. Weeks stretched into months, and the dust began to settle. The divorce was finalized, and I was awarded full custody of the kids. Emily didn't even put up much of a fight, probably too ashamed to face the mess she created. I didn't care anymore. I was done feeling sorry for her. The viral video of the confrontation eventually lost its momentum online, and people moved on to the next scandal. I never watched it again. Once was enough. Sometimes I'd catch a coworker giving me a sympathetic glance or hear someone whisper about me in the break room, but I'd learned to drown it out. I wasn't going to live as that guy who got cheated on for the rest of my life. Surprisingly, Jessica and I kept in touch. At first, it was just casual texts, checking in, venting about our exes, swapping stories about how the kids were adjusting. But as time went on, the conversations got deeper, about life, dreams, fears, and everything we lost when our marriages fell apart. One Friday evening, about 6 months after the blow-up, Jessica invited me and the kids over for a barbecue. I hesitated at first, wondering if it would be too weird, but Kyle, my unofficial therapist, convinced me to go. "Man, you deserve to be around someone who actually respects you," he said, lounging on my couch with a beer. "Jessica gets it. You both went through hell. Might as well find some happiness together." I grunted in response, but knew he was right. I was tired of wallowing in misery. I wanted to start living again. So that Friday, I loaded the kids into the car and drove over to Jessica's place. The smell of grilled meat greeted us as we walked into her backyard. Jessica was at the grill, expertly flipping burgers with a smile that seemed genuinely happy. Her 2 kids, Timmy and Grace, were playing catch with my son, Noah, while my daughter, Lily, helped set the picnic table with paper plates and cups. Jessica turned around and grinned when she saw us. "Hey, you made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, giving her a quick smile. "Smells amazing." She wiped her hands on her apron and motioned toward the cooler. "Help yourself to a drink. Food's almost ready." As I grabbed a cold soda, I couldn't help but notice how much lighter I felt. The laughter of the kids, the warmth of the setting sun, and Jessica's presence all felt right. Like I was finally stepping out of the shadow of betrayal and into something better. We ate, laughed, and watched the kids run around the yard like maniacs. At one point, Jessica's daughter, Grace, tugged on my shirt and looked up at me with wide eyes. "Mr. Jason, are you going to be my new daddy?" she asked innocently. I almost choked on my burger, and Jessica froze, looking mortified. "Grace," she scolded, cheeks flushing red. I crouched down to her level, giving her a gentle smile. "I'm just your mom's friend for now," I said carefully. "But I'll always be here to help out if you need me." Grace seemed satisfied with that answer and skipped off to chase after Noah. Jessica gave me an apologetic smile, clearly embarrassed. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. She's still processing everything. I shrugged it off. "It's fine. Kids say what's on their minds. Besides, I get it. They're just trying to make sense of things." Jessica looked down at her hands, and I could see the worry in her eyes. "I just don't want to rush anything. I don't want them to get attached too fast." I placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing lightly. "We're not rushing. We're just letting life happen. Whatever this is, it doesn't have to be complicated. We're both healing, one step at a time." Her eyes softened, and she gave me a small smile. "You're right. I guess I'm just scared of making another mistake." I nodded, understanding more than she knew. "Trust me, I get that." As the evening wore on, the kids finally tired themselves out, collapsing in a heap on the picnic blanket with their bellies full. Jessica and I sat on the porch steps, sipping our drinks and watching the sky darken to a deep shade of indigo. She broke the silence first, her voice quiet. "Do you ever think about starting over? Like, finding happiness again?" I glanced over at her, studying the way the fading sunlight caught in her hair. "Yeah," I admitted. "I didn't think I would for a long time. But now, I'm starting to think it's possible. I just don't want to screw it up again." She gave me a wistful smile. "I guess that's what makes us human. We're scared of repeating the same mistakes. But I think it's worth the risk." After what we went through, we deserve to find something real. I swallowed the lump in my throat and looked straight into her eyes. Maybe we should take that risk together. Jessica's cheeks flushed, but she didn't look away. Instead, she leaned in slowly, testing the waters. I met her halfway, our lips brushing softly, hesitant and gentle, like two people terrified of breaking something fragile. When we finally pulled back, she gave me a shy smile, and I couldn't help but grin. Been a while since I felt something like that, I admitted, chuckling softly. Same, she replied, looking almost relieved. But it felt good, real. We sat there for a while longer, not saying much, just enjoying the quiet peace between us. It wasn't about rushing into something new. It was about healing, rebuilding, and daring to believe that happiness wasn't just some distant dream. As I helped her clean up and gather the kids, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. Maybe we were both broken in our own ways, but together, we felt stronger. We had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation, but we were still standing. When it was time to leave, Jessica gave me a soft hug, lingering just a little longer than necessary. Take care, Jason, she whispered. You too, I replied, giving her hand one last squeeze before heading to the car. As I drove home with the kids sleeping in the back seat, I couldn't help but smile. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of it. I had faced my demons, stood up for myself, and let go of the toxic weight that had been dragging me down. Maybe life wasn't perfect, and maybe the scars would never completely fade. But I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was living, and that was more than enough.